Welcome, welcome. Yay. If you guys are just joining us, why don't you drop in the chat where you're tuning in from tonight? But we just wanted to welcome you to Flourish's Peace of Mind Planning. I'm so happy you're here. Estate planning can feel overwhelming or like something you just want to deal with later. But tonight is really about empowerment. It's about protecting what you've built, caring for the people you love, and making thoughtful decisions that bring clarity instead of confusion down the road. Peace of mind isn't just paperwork, it's preparation with purpose. Now, these events are made possible thanks to our dues paying alumna. Your continued support keeps Flourish thriving. If you haven't yet paid your dues or need a quick refresher on how, simply visit the Pay Dues tab on the Kappa website. Now, tonight there's absolutely no pressure. You don't need to have it all figured out. This is simply a space to learn, reflect, and start the conversation. Even one small step forward is a win. So please take a deep breath, settle in, and let this be the moment you choose confidence over avoidance. Your future self will thank you. Now, I just want to introduce you guys to our wonderful host for the evening, Tiana Ronstadt. Tiana is a holistic behavioral financial coach, a vibrant lecturer, workshop facilitator, and values based educator. Tiana brings more than 30 years of financial planning experience to her work. In 2006, she founded Power Women Investing, PWI, with the mission of empowering individuals to gain financial independence and pursue their biggest dreams. Today, she's recognized as a leading producer at Osaic Wealth and a sought after mentor, speaker, and coach within the financial industry. Through one on one counseling and dynamic speaking engagements, Tiana has guided thousands of individuals and families through pivotal transitions in life, retirement and divorce planning to income strategies, wealth transfer, business succession, generational counseling, and even navigating major life celebrations. Her true superpower is planning. Tiana has a unique ability to meet people where they are, envision where they want to go, and build a clear path to get them there. Tiana is the Kappa Kappa Gamma Foundation Vice President and has served as the president of the Tampa Bay and Tucson Alum Associations. Tiana, we are beyond thankful for your time, expertise, and advice tonight. Now, before we hand things over, we want to share a quick snapshot of what type of estate planners we have in the room tonight, based on some of our registration questions. We first asked, when it comes to planning ahead, which best describes you? We have 8.3% who are brand new here. They're here because future me set a reminder. We have 17.2% who are willing but unsure. They know it matters and they need somebody to tell them what to do first. 44.4% have intentions that exist, but their actions are planning or pending. They've thought about planning in the same way that they've also thought about running a marathon. And then 29.6% are already on it. They love a good checklist and are in a color-coded folder. I love a color-coded cover coded. That's a tongue twister. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not going to try and say that one again. So, what we also asked was what your estate planning mindset is. We had 47.9% say that they are just getting started, they know it's time, 33.1% who are updating what they already have, and 19% who is just gathering info. So, Tiana, you're among a room full of women ready to take on their future and prepare with the absolute best. How exciting! With that snapshot of tonight's group, we're so excited to learn from you. Thank you for being here. The floor is all yours.
Welcome, everyone. I know that I first just want to give a shout out to those that I recognize some of the names and just thank you for being here. You know, when I think about the other Flourish events that I've been on, I'm so proud of you for choosing tonight because I'm not cooking anything and I'm not having you make any cocktails. So anyway, I'm really actually very, very proud of you. So when I think about just some of the stuff that Sophie ran through, and then just you think about like all the other things, if you will, about me, time is our most valuable asset. And so the fact that you've agreed to lean in and spend a little bit of time around peace and planning, my hope is that you really just have one new push or one new idea for those of you that really are just looking for those kind of ideas, if you will, or even just to add to your plan. Where you are today, where you want to go, we're discussing really managing that middle. And so whatever that middle looks like, right? So it doesn't actually matter where you fall, your middle is going to be different. So one of the things that, you know, when we talk about what is planning for, why this work is so personal for me is that I lost my father when I was a senior in high school. I was 18 years old. He went on a business trip and didn't come home. He had a massive heart attack. And his plan was not a plan. And so, one of the things that I really feel in what I do is that you don't want to have a non plan as your plan or as your legacy. It's really not about fundamentally looking at what do I want to control, because we all kind of want to control things. It's more about how do I actually want to care for the people that I care about when I'm not here anymore. And so when we really just look into where you are, and so you want to, Sophie, go to the next, will be awesome. Um, that you are in the right room tonight. This is really about where you are today at your age, your stage. You're not behind, you're not alone, and you're exactly where you should be. And so when we think about all the different seasons in our life, it's more about planning is about managing and preserving your assets while you're here, as well as conserving and controlling their distribution after you're gone, based on your own goals and objectives. So I want to run a quick poll, or I'm going to have my behind the scenes gals do it. So we can go ahead and run that. Hopefully it works. Oh, you guys are so good. I'm doing it with you because then I kind of know the time frame. So there are no right or wrong answers. This is just for me to have a chance to really look at where you are. So the first one, do you currently have a will? And so I'm interested to see what the responses kind of look like. And oh, that's awesome. So I am so excited about this. So those of you that do may already know, for those of you that said no, you may already know why your answer can be yes. So actually, everyone already has a will. It's whether or not you customized it. Because the will of your state that you live in is the will that is the estate of your assets. So if you, wherever you live, if you are familiar with what the will of your state states and you're comfortable with that, you're fine. Because actually, it might just say everything goes to your parents, or everything goes to your siblings, or everything goes to your partner, or everything goes to your children. My father did not have a will, and the state of Florida's will and dying intestate, 50% went to my mother as his spouse, and 50% went to his children, which means I inherited 25% of his estate, his businesses, everything. So you can see the planning nightmare. And my mother then actually had to go to court and prove that she was my sister's legal guardian. So you really want to look at what the state will states. And if you're comfortable with it, again, there's really, you have a will. You can answer that question, yes, moving forward. We won't worry about the other questions on the poll. I want to, though, talk a little bit about common estate myths that we really see. And first, estate planning is only for those over 60. No, and I actually don't even know why they picked 60 or why we did, but the short answer is no. If you have assets and you are 18 years old, you should have a plan for those assets. And it's as simple as naming a beneficiary on those assets. I don't have kids, I don't need a plan. Same rule applies. My family knows what I want. No, your family actually doesn't know. And they might know, but why not go ahead and take a moment to just write it down? So anyone over the age of 18, definitely beyond a will, definitely needs a doable power of attorney. This names someone that can manage your assets in case you become incapacitated and cannot do so yourself. An advance directive really takes on three main tasks with your living will, your doable power of attorney for healthcare, and your do not resuscitate order. I know some of you are like, oh my goodness, this is now Debbie Downer. And I'm sorry, but the reality is that if you cannot communicate your wishes and how long you want to live here, whatever has happened to you, whether we just are trying to save your life with a medical induced coma, the reality is we want to know how you want to be treated during that time frame. Every state is different in how they actually manage this section. However, unlike a will that every state has one, power of attorneys don't work like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to actually access one in a few minutes. So when we talk about estate planning, we're really talking about decision making. So who makes the decision? What happens if I can't? How do I want to be cared for? And then what matters to me most? It's really continuing that conversation. So again, I'm 18. I don't have a partner at this point, and I don't have any children. I'm just 18. You definitely need the power of attorney, right? But then I also want to look at an unmarried couple. I have a partner. You want to make sure you've done some essential planning on how would you pass assets to that partner. So I've used the term pass assets. That term really is beneficiary. A beneficiary is for the benefit of. Most assets have a beneficiary. If they don't, then traditionally they'll have a TOD or transfer on death. All assets can have a transfer on death, even a checking account. So a checking, a savings, yes, your retirement assets have beneficiaries. As well as there's an account that's joint with rights to survivorship. Now, in that account, you've put someone else on the account. They do not have to be a married, they can be just two partners. They share, though, joints with rights, meaning they could clean it out also. You don't have to wait till someone passes. So be a little, those are like a caution. That's a little bit of a caution there. But when we talk about beneficiaries, we want to look at updating beneficiaries, or at least looking at accounts that have beneficiaries every single birthday. So every birthday, everyone has one. You get up and you're like, okay, today's the day. I'm going to look at the accounts I have. I'm going to review my beneficiaries, make sure everybody is still who I like, and I'm going to consolidate assets so that I don't have 14 different accounts everywhere. I might start consolidating things just for ease in doing planning. So estate planning is simply about decision making. So I said that we would talk about the dual power of attorney. When we talk about that, this document called the 5 Wishes is something that I am very familiar with and give as a gift to anyone that meets with me. And so it's on the next slide, Sophie. So the 5 Wishes, you can go, it's Aging with Dignity is the website, or you can ask us and we can send you the document as well. But Aging with Dignity is the one that puts these out. It is legally binding in 42 states. It is legally binding by your witnesses. There's only a few states that require it to be notarized. As shown right on the front, the first 2 wishes is that you're naming who will be your advocate or your agent, the person that is basically in charge if you are in a situation that you cannot communicate. Or you just have a really vocal family member in the room and you are not feeling confident. That would be the other thing, is that you've given your power to someone that definitely can speak on your behalf. Wish 2 is the kind of medical treatment that you want or don't want. And right in the document, things that you want, you can leave in. Things that you don't want, you can X out. There's also space that you can write notes. Wishes 3, 4, and 5, in my opinion, is what makes this so incredibly unique. So for those of you that have potentially gone and had a will and a dual power of attorney and a financial power of attorney and a healthcare power, you've done all this and you have it in a little binder, and that's awesome. At minimum, I would encourage you to lean into 3, 4, and 5 of this document. This is what makes this so unique. We know in our healthcare industry that things are becoming more and more clinical and less human. And 3, 4, and 5 are about how you want to be treated, what kind, how comfortable you want to be, and what you want your loved ones to know. I highly recommend filling it out in pencil. You can download it, but you definitely need to download it and print it. You can absolutely scan it back. But when we think of 3, 4, and 5, we're thinking of the senses. What do you want to see? What do you want to hear? What do you want to smell? What do you want to taste? And how do you want to be touched? In my career, I have now seen all kinds of things, meaning folks that are in independent and assisted living, but more importantly, children that are in hospitals. Children don't have really an opportunity to say 3, 4, and 5, but I will tell you that they absolutely will voice their opinion if all of a sudden you're having a cocktail party in their room. It's really important that we all have an advocate in situations that we don't feel that we have a voice. And so for me, I do not like the smell of curry. It is literally written in my 5 wishes. I really don't like really loud music. I definitely want natural light in my room if at all possible. And I definitely want my lips kept moist and my nails kept painted. So what are some things that you might want to do, as well as has everyone in your circle, your family, your friend group, this is something to talk about. It's not great. I always joke, like, I hope your next cocktail party, you're going to talk about it. I know you're not, but maybe you will. Because what I find is that this is not something to talk about just because you're 99. This is something to talk about the minute that you're 18. My opinion, it's something you really kind of talk about going into 16 as they're starting to drive their own car. When we think about that one piece, and then we look at the will and the next piece, so Sophie, you can move to the next. We had a couple of folks, and I always get questions around trust. And again, I'm a financial advisor. I am not an attorney. I simply know and look at why people need certain things. And in my opinion, the only time you need a trust is if you are working to protect assets specifically for a special need. And I use air quotes for a reason. Special need can be anything from, I just don't want my 20-year-old to inherit $1 million. That is a special request. That's making sure and putting a barrier from the time that potentially something might happen to you to the opportunity for them to actually have the money, to all the way that someone that honestly cannot care for themselves for the rest of their lives. So in all those circumstances, that is where a trust really can help. Things and caution that a trust don't do. They don't avoid probate. Every estate or every Santa sack or all your stuff is going to go through probate. Anything that has a beneficiary is automatically going to go to the beneficiary. I'm going to say that one more time. Anything that you have named a beneficiary or a transfer on death or a joints with rights to survivorship or, well, not necessarily tenants in common, you are going to 100%, it will transfer immediately to the beneficiary. All that we're talking about here are assets that don't work like that. So you can do a beneficiary deed on the house. You can do a beneficiary deed on the car. You can do a beneficiary deed on the boat. So what are you talking about then, Tiana? I'm talking about grandmother's china cabinet. I'm talking about your shoe collection. I'm talking about your purses. I'm talking about your Pokemon card. Does that make sense? I think sometimes that we get so wrapped up in the terms when we really just want to keep things as simple as possible. So what assets do I have? Checking account, savings account, I might have an IRA, I might have a Roth IRA, I might have a retirement plan at work, I might have a life insurance policy, I might have an annuity. I could keep going. Anything that allows you to name a beneficiary, name who you want the money to go to. Everything else, then, I have to figure out how I might be able to manage that. So the trust would come in after you're gone, where that person would inherit the assets, and the trust then would dictate how they might receive the assets. Caution again, you have to have a trustee. They do get paid. They can be expensive from a management standpoint. So again, it might be the right decision. It might not be the right decision. A trust does not avoid estate taxes. There's a lot of discussion about that. Estate taxes, when we use those terms, that's primarily federal. We all think federal estate taxes. This is when I wish that I could like yell at, like have all of you shout out. But anyway, 15 million is the number. So if your assets are more or greater than 15 million today, you will have an estate tax problem. You won't, you'll be gone, but your estate will. So the 99% of us that aren't in the $15 million, I can pass a 15 million on, we do not have a federal estate tax issue. There are a few states that have their own inheritance tax and a few states that have their own state death tax. State estate tax, one of those crazy words, right? Okay, so depending upon your state, you definitely want to know, am I a community property state? Am I a state that has an inheritance tax? Am I a state that has its own state estate tax? If I am, I want to understand what those rules are around it. What is the value of all of my assets, including my shoe collection? What is that value of those assets? And am I below whatever the requirements are? But for the federal government, the number is 15 million. So why all of this really matters is when we think about, oh, that's okay. Oh, did you go too far? Okay, I'm good. But why this all matters is it's not just about the paperwork, it's really about the people. And so when we look at, you want to, again, make it super simple. On your birthday, what are my beneficiaries? Where are my assets? Have I acquired anything that I now need to make sure someone is going to receive, excuse me. So whether that's jewelry, whether that's art, whether that's, other collectibles that are going to increase in value. You always want to check your beneficiaries. You always want to check then your 5 wishes. And then in your will, you can update a document called the letter of instruction. And basically in that pour over document, you can document new things possibly that you've purchased that again, don't have a beneficiary. So the next slide, if we can look, these are some free will resources. Free Will is a website that Kappa Kappa Gamma has partnered with, and you actually can create your own will. It takes about 20 minutes. They also have some planning for beneficiaries and a way for you, if you've given or are considering giving a gift, it allows you to share your intentions of that gift. When we talk about giving or intentional planning, the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about taxes, laws, and legacy. So when we first look at, I mentioned this already, in that I want to make sure I'm consolidating my assets. So if I've had currently 4 jobs, I hypothetically could have 4 different retirement plans. We could go back to it, Chelsea. You can go back to the other slide so they can get that's good. Sorry, okay. So you're gonna have a little suitcase. It's gonna be your IRA, individual retirement account. That little suitcase, you can put every single retirement plan in it as you go job to job. It's an individual retirement account. It doesn't matter if it was a 457, a 403B, a 401k, a SEP, a KIA, it doesn't matter. That little suitcase, you want to put every single time you change into the suitcase. The new job might be unbelievable, and now you want to move the suitcase to the new 401k. You can do that, but you need to move the suitcase in an IRA the whole time. You never, ever, ever, ever want to take the assets from your past employer in possession of yourself that isn't an IRA, individual retirement account. Again, has a beneficiary. So that's number one. Number two is the catch up in the retirement space. Anyone over 50 for 2026, you can do an extra $1,100 to your IRA or your Roth for this year. Anyone over 50 in your 401k, you can do an extra $8,000 this year. And if you're between 60 and 63, this year till 2028, you can do an extra $11,250 to your 401k. That's huge. So what that tells me is that there's some concern potentially that those over 50 have not saved enough. And then specifically slicing the Gen X, part of the Gen Xers right here, 60 to 63, saying you guys really do need to start saving. And this is the year to do it. It also is going to give you, again, those jump starts. Because once I've retired with my 401k, when can I access my IRA, my 401k, all my retirement assets? Once I've left work, 59 and a half, age 59 and a half. But Tiana, you just said I have a catch up. Yeah, you're still working. You're still working. The average person is still working. Okay? So that little suitcase, I now can add more and more and more to that suitcase from 60 to 63. When do I have to start taking money from my retirement plans? Age 73 for 2026. Age 59 and a half, I can start taking money. Age 73, I have to take money. Under that retirement space, that is the one asset that most people have most of their money, and it is the most expensive asset to pass on. So it is an amazing asset to consider doing gifting from. It really is the best asset to consider doing gifting from. And the gifting allows to go back to the old required minimum distribution, which is under the charitable donation, which is age 70 and a half. So for those of you that are like 30, you're like, Tiana, that's really long away. I know that. I totally understand. So this is where I will say there's a couple rules of thumb. Contribute to your 401k up to the match, and absolutely positively have a Roth IRA outside. ROTH, Roth, named after Senator Roth. It really should be called the tax-free IRA. How much is enough? What your golden number is when you are looking at whenever your retirement age is going to be, that golden number is only based on your spending. Period. You are enough, you have enough, and you will thrive. It is all driven by your spending, and then it is all driven by your cash flow. What's going to be coming in, and what am I spending? Just like while you're saving for retirement, it's the same philosophy. So how much is enough? Depends. That's why every plan is unique, every plan is customized, and every plan is specialized. Because we have no idea. We have no idea. So when we think about that legacy and we think about potential for giving, I would be remiss if I didn't have a slide to highlight the Omega Society. The Omega Society is Kappa Kappa Gamma's planned giving society. It honors members who choose to support the Kappa Kappa Gamma Foundation through a planned gift or bequest. We now have this unbelievably beautiful pen to recognize those that are part of the Omega Society. So if some of you are like, I don't understand. So you could name as a beneficiary, besides your family a friend, you could also name Kappa Kappa Gamma. And one of the things that I encourage every client to look at a way beyond themselves as stewards of what we cannot take with us. How much is enough for you to leave? And how much do you want to give to what has been given to you in whatever space that looks like? And for Kappa Kappa Gamma, it's given me way more than I'll ever be able to return. So if that's something that you've thought of, this is a way that you can absolutely give. But today, it's not money that's leaving today. You're just making a decision, a conscious choice in your estate plan to add Kappa Kappa Gamma as one of your beneficiaries. So I believe we have another poll, but we'll see. Maybe we will see if it works. And if it won't work, I'm okay with that, by the way, because I can just kind of talk about a few things. Yay! So what part of this feels the hardest for you? This is where now I need music, Sophie. Waiting. Oh, there we go. Okay, awesome. So based on the poll, knowing what documents I need, the 5 wishes, or healthcare power of attorney, okay? Do not resuscitate. That's also part of that entire document. That is really the documents you need. And then a will. If you are not happy with the will of the state, go to freewill.com, download a will, find an attorney, lots of options in that area. But remember, the will is really just for the assets that do not have a beneficiary. So the hardest part is getting started, in my opinion, on recognizing and making sure that your beneficiaries are up to date and that your assets are consolidated. Because if I'm having to search each old plan I had and update beneficiaries all over the place, oh, and we didn't mention group life insurance that everyone's like, oh, I have group life insurance. Well, who'd you name as the beneficiary? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea what I did that day. I liked my brother or whatever. I don't know. You've got to make sure that during your benefit time in your company that you're updating your beneficiaries. Having the conversation. I truly believe that one of the easiest ways to do that is to start with the 5 wishes. Asking your family, do they have this already? Asking your parents, do you already have an advance directive and I'm not familiar with it? And if they say no, say, oh my goodness, look at this incredible document that I was just introduced to. That will lead to additional conversation because that is a soft window opening. You're simply trying to find out what the plan is if something were to happen to them. And then finding the right help, FINRA.org, FINRA.org, which stands for Financial and Insurance Regulatory Agency. That is a great place to, if you ask a friend, you find a referral, but then you want to go to FINRA.org to make sure the advisor that you are considering is on there. If they are not FINRA licensed. They are not a fiduciary, and therefore you do not want to work with them. I also would recommend, personally, I love the new BFA designation. It's behavioral financial advisor. And it came out about 10 years ago. I took it and passed it during COVID. I find that it really makes the difference in connecting where you are, where you want to go, and helping you manage the middle. And they're willing to talk about all the things that are kind of under the umbrella of all things finance, if that makes sense. So taxation, accounting, estate planning, financial planning. I mean, all the buzzwords, but and investment planning. But the reality is, who is actually looking at the whole plan, which is holistic planning. So thank you so much. I know we're going to answer some questions. So I think that you can put, questions up. Okay. And then you'll put my stuff up, right, Sophie?
Yes. Are we ready
Awesome.
to move on to some
Sure.
of the questions from everybody?
Yeah.
We already got some ready to go. Okay, so those were answered. Thank you, Maddie, for answering those in the chat. They were asking for some of the websites that you were sharing earlier. So we have a question that is, do you pay state inheritance tax on the state where the person lived or the state where the beneficiary lives or both?
I actually, if from a state tax planning, I don't know the answer to that. Because and so my assumption, I could go on my assumption, but I'd rather not go on my assumption. Because again, there's only a few states that have estate taxes. I mean, very few.
Totally. No. How detailed should one be in their estate planning?
That's an excellent question. I feel so I don't really know when you say detailed. So I'm going to stab at two ideas. One would be detailed in my mother had sticky notes on everything. She's still here, so I shouldn't make it sound like that, but she has moved about 19 times since the day of sticky notes. But she had sticky notes on everything. And then she had masking tape, like Tiana gets this, my sister gets that, my other sister gets this. Does that make sense? So I think from a detailed standpoint of overall things, if you will, that's one way I'm thinking of detailed. The other way I'm thinking of detailed is controlling from the grave. And I will just share with you that I have a couple of clients that are over 50, still being dictated by a trust. I didn't know their parents, but my assumption is that that wasn't the intention. I just feel that there was a way that the trust was written. So you get too detailed, way too in the weeds, you cannot unravel that. The person isn't here anymore. I mean, there's nothing we can do to unravel whatever you've done. And you're gone now, it sticks. So I would just be cautious on how stipulated you want to be managing from the grave. So that's my two ways in the detail. So if I missed it, please add another comment.
How about assets over X amount of value?
Hmm.
If I'm not sure if that's specific enough, we can let them to come back if you need some more
Yeah, that'd be
context. Okay.
yeah,
What
I don't
is
know.
recommended if someone owns a house and they don't have kids or a partner?
Recommended as far as okay, so you could do one of two things. You can just add the house to the will. You can just say, I want my house sold. I mean, literally, and I want it then divided up among whoever I'm going to divide it up to. Or you can go ahead and do a beneficiary deed on your house. So you can name anything for a beneficiary deed. I mean, you can name a nonprofit and you can name anything for a beneficiary deed. So I hope that answers. Stephanie, I'm thinking you're talking about how about assets over X value. When I think about when I'm going to name somebody in the will, it's not really necessarily about value. It could be intrinsic value. It doesn't have to have financial value for me to actually name someone. If I believe it's going to cause family stress or I've promised something to someone, I should write that down and I should make sure that my wishes are communicated. God forbid something happened to me.
Thank you for figuring that out for me. I'm obviously not the expert here, so thank you for that.
Well, I don't
Um,
know. I hope Stephanie that if that's right or if that's what you were thinking, then and otherwise please say something again.
what did you say the IRA suitcase was called, and how do you go about setting that up?
That's an excellent question. So I just call it the IRA suitcase. So the IRA is individual retirement account. And that IRA, that type of account, just like a checking and savings account that you own by yourself, and maybe you have TOD, transfer on death on it, an IRA is it's an account that is outside of work that you can put your retirement assets from your old jobs. So again, if at your old employer, it was an ESOP, a 401k, a 457, any of the numbers and letters, those are just tax codes, by the way. It's not like they were created. So that all of those retirement assets can all go into your little IRA suitcase. What can't go in there is Roth IRA because it's named different. Okay. So Roth and IRA can't go together. There's ways you can do that. We're not going to talk about that tonight. But you don't want to do that is my point. You can't put Roth in IRA. You can maybe do IRA to Roth, but that's what I'm saying. That's a little sticky and there's some ways that you have to go about that, blah, blah, blah. I won't get into all that tonight. FINRA stands for Financial and Insurance Regulatory Agency.
Thank you. That came through on a different thread, and I wanted to make sure that she got her
Thank you.
answer. Um, what do
Yes,
you do for the consolidate if you have a pension from two different organizations in addition to an IRA?
they can all go together. Now I am going to put a little bit of a caveat on pension, is it's really important to look at, and this is a little in the weeds question, but you want to look at when we use the word pension, the funding vehicle on that allows me to have what's called settlement options. So you want to at least look at what are the settlement options and then compare it on, do I just want to take the lump sum of the pension? And yes, that lump sum of the pension and from this pension and my 401k and my IRA, they all can go together. Everybody goes together. More money makes more money, period. Money makes money. So to have 9 different accounts, you're already losing your investability because the money isn't making money. And especially because it's growing tax deferred, it makes even more money. So you want it all to go together. On the pension, though, small caveat, little asterisks, check on the settlement options. So I'll give you an example. Teachers have pensions, okay? But the pension might say, you're not going to get it because you actually haven't worked here long enough and now you're not a teacher anymore and you need these points, blah, 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 blah. It would make sense to take the lump sum, is my point. In that scenario, because you want to look at what the settlement option says.
If you want to
Uh,
update your estate plan, um, like a will or five wishes document, how do you void the old version, or can you do an addition? I'm sorry, I
Addendum.
don't.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah, no,
you.
great. That's an excellent question. So first of all, the witnesses on the five wishes document or any document, whether you get it notarized or at least you have two witnesses. Two witnesses are really the key. They are they're not time stamping it, but they're dating it. It will then void anything you did before that. The other comment, though, I will say is that you can absolutely add addendums. So within the five wishes, there are times like I added about my curry thing, and I just put my little initials and a date to make sure that everyone knew, oh, she added that on that day. And so I hope that helps.
She
Um,
sent a thumbs up, so I think it definitely did.
okay, good. Um,
Um,
we talked
what?
about the pension, and then yes, you can move a pension to an IRA. You just want to look at settlement options.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, okay. Yes.
And then
What?
Anne, I love that you ask HSAs. That makes me so happy. I love HSAs. If your employer offers an HSA, which stands for a health savings account, so it goes in pre-tax. You do not pay any taxes when it goes in. It grows tax deferred, and it's tax free when you pull it out. It's the Roth is the best thing since Wonder Sliced Bread. And now this is Cinnamon Toast Crunch with like Wonder Bread. Like, I don't even know how else to explain to you how awesome the HSA is. So, yes, it is part of a high deductible um, insurance plan. But when you're looking and you're only going to the doctor a few times and you're young, pay out of pocket. Go ahead, take the high deductible, pay out of pocket, let that HSA grow. You can invest it and it grows tax free. The other really nice thing about it is that you don't ever, I mean, you can keep going. So if somebody wants to retire prior to 65, which is when you get Medicare benefits, they can utilize their HSA then for additional things that are happening to help them in the medical space. You can also use the HSA pretty much for anything. It's a little credit card that you get. It's an amazing retirement planning tool. Lady
Um,
Life Community.
what?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're totally fine. What is your best advice for protecting assets in a late in life marriage in a community property state without a prenup? One party does have adult children they want to pass assets on to, the other has no children.
That is loaded, and that would be very specialized. And I am more than happy whenever you want to call me. I'm happy to talk you through that. I am extremely unique in that marriage is awesome until it really isn't when we're talking about getting married later in life. And then we want to really look at who has what and what are the expectations of those older children. And so, really, even in a prenup, you can still, I mean, even without a prenup, you can say, these are my assets. This is the beneficiary I'm naming. It's not you. Or you're going to be 40% and 60% is going to go to this. But my assets, Tiana's, are not going to go to your children. So that's just one way. And you just on IRA assets, because an IRA is protected, it has to be the spouse. The spouse just has to sign off on it. And I have found that actually breeds wonderful conversation, absolutely wonderful conversation that you can have because you've built this. Each of you should be able to create those legacies that help you in that situation.
When you say you put all the IRAs together, do you mean open a rollover IRA to move all the plans from former jobs onto?
Yes, it's still just an IRA, but yes, 100%. So yes, the term rollover, yes. So you're going to roll over your IRAs from an old position. Yep, correct.
Does the state's will trump a will I create?
Hmm. No. Now, how I would say that is that if I created the will of the state is always the state you live in. So if you were living in Florida and you created a Florida will and now you live in Arizona, you really need to make sure you have an Arizona will. So you have to update your will based on the state you live in. What I don't know the answer to, and that's an excellent question, so we're going to add that to the list, is that if I die in a state, like in other words, I didn't get it updated, which state trumps? So that's a great question. Great question. Whoever said that, you get a huge gold star tonight.
If you or your spouse passes away and the wills or documents are completed together and then the living spouse remarries, would the wishes still hold for the deceased spouse or would it void all the documents created previously because of this new marriage?
So, so the advance directive and living power of attorney would die with the person that it dies with. If you have created a will that's for the two of you, and you decide to remarry, you definitely want new documents. Where that will change, and again, I am not an attorney, but there are ways that you can have a surviving trust for the surviving spouse that potentially could have some of those wishes live beyond, meaning for that next group. Does that make sense? So in other words, there would be some way, but I would personally, I would never want to do that. I mean, that's again, that's managing from the grave. I don't know. So,
The other question was from earlier about the HSA funds.
right.
What do you do with it or RMA accounts?
Yeah, an RMA, I have no idea what that acronym is, but HSA is a health savings account. And so, again, what you do with them is that you save money into them while you're employed, and you can take pre-tax dollars. It is an employee benefit. It is tied. It's not like like if you don't have a high deductible savings account through your employer that you can put the money into an HSA, you can't just have an HSA outside, just so everyone's clear. It's not like you can just now go, oh, well, Tiana said I could have an HSA and it's amazing. It is, but you can't just have one. You have to actually have it with a high deductible health plan through an employer. Once you've had it, though, you then have it for the rest of your life. You can't contribute to it, but you can have the money that you put in there pre-tax. It grows tax free, deferred, and then it's tax free when you pull it out. So I hope that helps. Um, okay.
Hey, if nobody has any more questions, just want to give our last shouts for the Q&A, but if not, we that was great. Thank you so much, Tiana, for answering
Oh,
all those questions. I know that was a lot. So,
no, it was, thank you. It was really great. If I can just, Sophie, just say one quick thing because we have 2 minutes or a few minutes. Just or one quick thing, because I mentioned the Roth twice, and I do at least want to just on a high level. If you do not have a Roth and you are making money, good to see you, Elizabeth. You should have a Roth. A Roth allows you outside of work to put after tax money. It grows tax deferred and it's tax free when you pull it out. It also passes to beneficiaries tax free, and the tax deferred growth piece is locked up until the retirement age, 59 and a half. But when can you take your money back out? Anytime, anytime. So ladies that are young and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm putting money in the 401k and I don't get to touch it till 59 and a half. Yes, but you could have a Roth outside. So when you have those medium term issues, maybe in your 30s, maybe in your 40s, I can look and say, oh my gosh, you have the Roth bucket. That's awesome. Let's see how much we can take out of the Roth. We just have to leave your earnings in. My hope is that you leave the Roth in the whole time. And yes, the Roth, the maximum for this year that you can contribute for 2026 to the Roth and the IRA for that matter is 7,500. And then I already mentioned if you're over 50, you can contribute up to 1,100 addition. Income limits, very complicated question, Tamara, because it depends upon if you're married, if you're single, if you're head of household, and it's adjusted gross. Regardless of all that, anyone can have a Roth. It's called a backdoor Roth. You contribute to an IRA, we immediately convert it to a Roth. The only difference in that scenario is that that money then has to stay in for 5 years. That's the only 5 year rule in the planning. Um,
hey, um, I
oh,
think
that's awesome, Kyle. Thank you.
yay. So just as we wrap up tonight, we wanted to share and listen to
Thank
what
you,
you're taking
Jessica.
what you're taking away from your evening with Tiana. I like know I sure learned a lot, and I'm sure Tiana would love to hear everything that you guys took away before we sign off for the evening. This was amazing. Thank you for everything. Oh my gosh, you are getting so much love. They love the backdoor Rother idea that they need to just get started. I feel that definitely. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, everybody's so excited and they had the bestest time. Oh, everybody's talking about free will and the Five Wishes docs. People want to email you tomorrow. So exciting. Yay. This went great. I think that's a good way to. Oh, yep. Thank you, Maddie, for sharing how to reach Tiana after this. This is her beautiful slide that she has with her QR code, her Instagram, Facebook. Maddie dropped that all in the link in the chat box too, if anybody wants to find it right now. But we can leave this up for a second while I finish off our night. So it was so meaningful hearing all of your learnings and takeaways from our estate planning event tonight with Tiana. We want to send a heartfelt thank you to Tiana for guiding us through such an important and empowering conversation. We're so grateful for the clarity, expertise, and encouragement you shared with us. You made a topic that can feel overwhelming very approachable, and that is such a gift. Thank you as well to everyone who joined us tonight. Choosing to spend your evening planning for your future and protecting what matters most is powerful. These Flourish events are made possible by our dues paying alumna, and your continued support allows us to keep creating meaningful experiences like this. If you need to pay your dues or want a refresher, you can always head to the Pay Dues tab on the Kappa website. And if you'd like to revisit tonight's peace of mind planning conversation with Tiana or share it with a sister who couldn't attend, the recording will be sent in tomorrow's post event wrap up email and will also live on the main event page of the Kappa website. And again, we have a very full and exciting month ahead. Join us on March 5th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for a book club with Rachel Upshaw as we dive into her novel Greek Lovers. It's going to be your next favorite beach read. Then on Wednesday, March 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll be back for a powerful salary negotiation conversation with Mary Childs. And we're closing out the month on March 26th with a skincare soiree featuring Nikeo Grieco. It's a full lineup, and we can't wait to see you at each one. Again, you'll find all the links to the upcoming events in the chat and on the Kappa website, so please be sure to save your spot. Thank you again for being a part of Flourish Night. Thank you so much, Tiana. We're so grateful for all this information and for this community. We can't wait to gather again with you very soon. So until next time, good night, sisters.